Welcome once again to the Heroes and Icons podcast. I'm your host, Greg Randolph. We have a very special treat for you today. We have the legendary, the iconic, the American treasure, Robin the Boy Wonder, Burt Ward, from the original Batman TV series from the 1960s. And today he'll be talking about his nonprofit for dogs that he and his wife Tracy run. It's called GentleGiantsPetProducts.com, and we'll go behind the scenes of that amazing Batman series. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today on the Heroes and Icons podcast. I'm your host, Greg Randolph. Please find us on Instagram at Heroes and Icons Podcast and on Twitter at Heroes Icons Pod. And you can also find us on the YouTube channel at Heroes Icons Podcast. If you're so inclined, please give a 5-star review and subscribe to the show for great shows like this and others. We have an incredibly special treat today. If you are a fan of the Batman franchise, my guest needs no introduction whatsoever. As the character Robin the Boy Wonder, this gentleman starred alongside the late, great Adam West, who played Batman, of course, and together they formed the dynamic duo in the original Batman TV series, which aired on ABC from 1966 to 1968. He has 139 acting credits to his name. In 2004, he won the TV Land Award for Favorite Crime Stopper Duo. And in 2005, he won the TV Land Award for Favorite Crime Stopper. In 2015, he was inducted into the International Kickboxing and Karate Hall of Fame. In 2016, Batman, The Return of the Crusader movie, was voted Best Animated Superhero Movie of the Year for that year. On January 9th of 2020, he received a much-deserved star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And today with his wife, Tracy, runs GentleGiantsPetProducts.com, their website and pet food company for all dog breeds and cats. And the link to that website can be found in the show notes for this podcast. And without any further ado, my guest today is the one and only, the iconic Burt Ward. It is a tremendous honor to have you on with me today. It's great to see you, sir. How are you and how's your family doing?
Hello, citizen. We're all great, thank you. We're very excited about 2023. We hope it's going to be a fantastic year for everyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, please tell us about Gentle Giants Pet Products and your nonprofit for the dogs and cats, and that gives extended life to dogs of all sizes and cats, where they can live as potentially as long as 27 years.
Yes, well, we have dogs living up to 27 and a half years and
Wow.
Cats living up to 32 years.
So, oh my goodness. Wow.
But this didn't happen overnight. My wife and I started in 1994 rescuing Great Danes. We wanted to get a Great Dane for our daughter, and we heard about Great Danes that were being put to sleep in shelters because there was no one to rescue them. And we thought, well, how about just temporarily for a couple of weeks, we'll take in some Great Danes, we'll save them from being euthanized, and then we'll find a home, we'll find somebody to take this over from us. So it's only been 29 years. We're still looking for someone to take it over. I mean, I'm a patient person, but 29 years is a long time. But we started rescuing Great Danes, and one thing led to another. Then we were rescuing other giant breeds, and now we actually rescue 45 different breeds. There's only 164 breeds of dogs, and we rescue 45 of them, from tiny 2-pound dogs all the way up to dogs that are almost 300 pounds, giants, from the littlest to the biggest, and from the youngest puppies to the oldest seniors. And in the course of rescuing these animals, we found that in the case particularly of the giant breeds, that they have very short lifespans. Mastiffs and Irish Wolfhounds traditionally live only 6 to 8 years. Great Danes traditionally only live 7 to 9 years. And all dogs actually live pretty short lives. I read where the average lifespan in the United States of a dog is only 7 years. It just seems like what a terrible loss when you can have such a loving, kind companion that you could only have it for such a short period of time. So when we would lose one that we weren't able to adopt and it passed away, my wife and I were so devastated, so incredibly devastated, that we vowed if we could find a way, that we would find a way to help all breeds of dogs live longer, healthier, and happier lives. The first thing we discovered was what we call our special feeding and care program. And all of this evolved from living 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with at least 50 dogs in my house. I mean, that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, now for 29 years. But even after a couple of years, just imagine if you had 50 dogs in your house every single day. There's nobody that lives anywhere else. They live in the house. Of course, they go out, they go to the bathroom. They also go outside to eat and play. But nevertheless, there's 50 dogs in your house. Well, you learn a lot, you learn it quick. So we were very fortunate to discover how to properly feed these dogs. That actually, in the case of our special feeding and care program, which your viewers or listeners can find on gentlegiantsdogfood.com,
Okay.
the section is called Special Feeding and Care Program. You can see how we feed and care for dogs. We feed them, for example, a minimum of 5 or more times a day, smaller, more frequent meals. And we elevate their food and water dishes.
Right.
All of the things I'm describing here add years to your dog's life and actually help them avoid illnesses that can be caused by eating too much at one time and getting a condition called bloat and torsion that kills up to 10% of the dogs in America every year. All kinds of things and pitfalls that we've avoided by the way we feed and care for dogs. Then we decided once we got like, for example, the Great Danes up from instead of 7 to 9 years, but living 10 to 12 years. I mean, that's 3 years on average. It's still pretty spectacular.
Sure.
That we said, well, maybe there's something else we could do. Maybe if we change their food. Now, please understand, we were rescuing these dogs. This was not a business. This is
Right.
saving lives, trying to find them homes because we were limited. You can't just keep taking them in without adopting some out.
Sure.
And then we finally got a formal special permit here in our city where we can have more than 50 dogs, but we keep it at 50. And so what we discovered was that if we made the finest food we could make, we thought maybe we could add another year or two to the dog's life. We didn't know going into this what we ultimately found out. And what we found out is that by doing things the right way, meaning don't add a bunch of extra fat into the food, don't coat the dog's kibbles with greasy animal fat, don't add excessive protein as a marketing tool. I mean, just some basic common things, and use healthy ingredients. And in our case, we use all non-GMO ingredients, which I'll explain in a minute. But the point of it is that we got amazing results. Our Great Danes that were only living, well, they started at 7 to 9 years, and then with our feeding program went 10 to 12. We had Great Danes that were 16 years old, 18 years old, and still, I mean, they were older, but they could walk and they could still run. I mean, they had a very good quality of life. And so when we would adopt these dogs and people would come and see an 18-year-old Great Dane, and they say, oh my gosh, my vet's never going to believe what I've just seen. I mean, I can tell he's old, but my gosh, how do you keep him alive? And he's just so affectionate. He goes and plays with the other dogs. How do you do that? Well, we explained that we have a special way of feeding, a special way of caring, and a special food. And of course, then once they heard a special food, well, we couldn't find anybody that would adopt a dog from us unless we would furnish the food to them. Now, we never intended to sell dog food. We only made it because we couldn't stand to see our dogs dying so young. So we were getting our food made custom for us, finest ingredients. I mean, we paid a fortune for it to get the best of the best, but it came to us in plain white bags. And now we checked with a lawyer and said, oh, no, you can't sell that food unless it has labeling, proper labeling. It complies with every state that you're selling the food in. And so we went through all of that fast because we were not going to be able to adopt a dog, because people would say, I'm not taking that dog if I don't have that food. I want my dog to live 18 to 20 years.
Right.
Well, we did that. And of course now, and that was back in 2005, which is 17 years ago. And since then, our food now is distributed all across the United States. We're in Target, Walmart. We're in, and in Texas, we just started an HEB.
Yes.
We're in 160 select stores of HEB stores in Texas. And I can't tell you how many people there have called to say, I couldn't believe it. I went to grocery shop in my HEB and there's Gentle Giants. I don't have to order it online. And people appreciate that. And we have not only our dog food there, we have our cat food there. We have all our different recipes. I mean, a really good selection. But the key thing of what we're trying to do here is help animals live longer. I mean, in the case of most people, they'll get a dog, to grow up with their child. I mean, I think it's a wonderful thing for a child to grow up with a dog. The problem has been with traditional food for animals and not knowing the best care techniques. Very often, by the time the child is started out, maybe at 3 or 4 or 5, and now they're 10 or 11 or 12, the dog passes away.
Right.
And now you're trying to explain to your child death, which we didn't have that problem with our daughter. We got our daughter an American Eskimo, about a 25-pound dog as an adult, when she was 1.5 years, and the dog was 6 months of age. And that dog has been with her for more than 20 years. The same dog. We also got her she wanted Great Danes too. And that, of course, traditionally, because they have such a much shorter lifespan. But we got her 2 sisters from a litter that we had rescued. And she was 4. Our daughter was 4 at the time. They were 6 months of age. And now 17 years later, the dogs are still alive. That's almost triple the lifespan of a Great Dane. 17, 18 years it's been. And all of this we attribute to 3 things: how you care for your dog, how you feed your dog, and what you feed your dog. And again, we first really got a shot of this when we got the food back from these top nutritionists that we hired, and within a month we saw major changes in our dogs. I mean, a month of starting to feed them. Their coats were so much better. Right. Their eyes, they were more alert. They were calmer. They weren't hungry all the time. And we started doing research, and we found out some pretty serious things. For example, to my knowledge, every dog food that I've seen has had fat added to it.
Right.
It's filled with fat. Okay, with anywhere from 12 to 22% fat, which, by the way, on a bag under the guaranteed analysis, they make you use the word crude fat. It doesn't say healthy fat. Doesn't even just say fat. It says crude fat, and that includes saturated fats. So, I mean, that's not good stuff. Our fat content is 9% because that's basically what's in the food naturally. But when I see these other foods, anywhere from 12 to 22% pure crude fat, I mean, is it a wonder that dogs don't live very long? So so our food, and that's another thing I tell people all the time. If you want to understand, we didn't discover the fountain of youth. Believe me, if we had discovered the fountain of youth, I would be drinking from it. We're just not prematurely killing dogs. And I tell people, you want to know the difference between Gentle Giants, how it could be so different than your food? Go pick up 3 or 4 kibbles, rub them in your fingers, and then put them down and rub your fingers together. You're going to feel that slightly greasy feeling. What is that? It's animal fat that was sprayed onto the outside of the food, and, by the way, added to the inside of the food, okay, to make your dog eat more, to make you feed your dog more, to make you ultimately buy more dog food. Oh, isn't that wonderful? You sacrifice their health to make more money. Well, that doesn't sit well with me. So we don't do that. We don't add a lot of fat on the inside of the food. We don't add a greasy coating on the outside of the food. We're not trying to make more money. Our object is to help dogs live longer and healthier. And I can gladly tell you that here at our rescue, with 50 dogs at all times, our animals here, we are so healthy. The only time they go to a vet is every 3 years for a $10 or $15 rabies update. Right. I mean, we don't have illness. Okay. I think and cancer now is a major killer of dogs. In fact, on our website, gentlegiantsdogfood.com, and even on our store site, gentlegiantspetproducts.com, we have a video that we took from another website that does research on GMOs in the human food supply and in the animal food supply. And we were so impressed by this video, which we put on our website. It's 8 minutes long, but what's so impressive is that everyone interviewed is a veterinarian, an experienced, well-respected veterinarian. And let me tell you, they all basically say the same thing, which is 10, 15, 20 years ago, they would see one patient, dog or cat, a month that had cancer. Now, with the GMOs in the food supply, every single day, 1 out of every 2 patients they see, every one of them said, has cancer.
Right.
Has cancer.
Gosh.
What a horrible thing. And, for those of your listeners that don't know exactly what GMOs are, genetically modified organisms in the food supply, basically when a farmer would grow a plant like rice or fruits or vegetables or whatever, the pests would attack it. It's being grown. They would sometimes spray pesticide to kill the pests, and often it would kill the plant. So when these giant companies came out by mixing glyphosate, which is in Roundup, that one that's causing all those humans to die, they mix it into the DNA of the plant so that when a pest would attack a plant, the farmer could spray that plant with a pesticide and not kill the plant. It still produced the vegetable or the fruit, or, like as an example, rice. Well, that rice, even though it's produced and sold, has absorbed the pesticide. And I can tell you for a fact that animals have much worse immune systems than humans. I mean, our immune system is far superior than that of an animal. And so as a result, and all these vets are saying the same thing, that whereas these GMOs in the food supply are probable carcinogens, could cause cancer in humans, they are definite carcinogens causing cancer in animals, dogs, cats, any animal that eats a food that has been treated with this pesticide and with the glyphosate from Roundup in it. So long story short, we don't have any GMOs in the food. It took us 1.5 years to find suppliers who could certify in writing that their ingredients had no GMOs in it. And with all the things that are in dog food, we have prebiotics, probiotics, all these healthy things, and have to have every single one have a sign off that you can see what a daunting task it was to get truly non-GMO food. And combining the non-GMO food with a non-greasy coating on the outside of the food and no excessively added fat on the inside of the food, you combine those together, those are 2 really big things as to why animals can live longer. And then, of course, as we feed our dogs now, we found out that the greatest stress on a dog's body that makes them age so fast is digestion. And here in America and elsewhere, people, I don't know where they picked it up, but people have this idea that, the only way to feed a dog is feed it twice a day. A big meal in the morning, a big meal in late afternoon. Well, guess what? That shortens dogs' lives because it puts a stress on digestion too much, trying to digest too much food at a single time. So we feed our dogs a minimum of 5 or more times a day. We're not feeding more food. We're feeding smaller, more frequent meals, at least an hour apart. And we're also raising their food in water bowls. And people say, well, why do you do that? I said, well, think of it this way. Your dog's only got so much energy in its lifetime. And if every single day your dog has to lean down to get the food off the floor, then they chew and they come up and lean down to get the water, up and down and up and down. Every day you are prematurely wearing your dog's body out. And one of the great questions that we get from people that call in or write to us is that they'll say, I don't understand. I go on your website and I see dogs running around like puppies in their 20s, and my dog is 7 years old and he's already having a problem getting up and he's having a problem walking, and that doesn't seem fair. Well, it isn't fair, but it could have been avoided. And even for those people now that have dogs that are 10 and 12 years old, you need to switch the food. You need to get them on food that is not have extra fat in it, that doesn't have GMO ingredients in it. And we didn't even get into protein. Protein is become a marketing tool. So you go to a pet store, you look up on the shelf, well, maybe on the left is a protein dog food that is 26%, one on the right, 28, and in the center, 32%. Oh, that's got to be wonderful. No, it isn't. We found out in our experience that you never want to feed a dog more than 22% protein, or you can prematurely burn its kidneys out. Burn its kidneys out. And I like to use the example of the very famous Atkins diet. It's not so famous anymore after Dr. Atkins, who was on his own diet, died of kidney disease. And after many of his patients and customers who were on that diet started coming down with kidney disease from having too much protein. So, I mean, whether you're a human animal or a dog or a cat or anything else, our cells are affected similarly by too much fat, too much protein. So we need moderation in our diets. We need healthy foods. And just think, with all that grease that you would never pour down your garbage disposal, what do you think is happening to your dog's arteries and intestines when every single day, every single meal, every single bite, every kibble is encapsulated in animal fat? Is it a wonder that dogs even live as long as they live? So we fight that by trying to help people understand. And now with our partnership of teaming up with HEB to bring Gentle Giants into their stores, everyone there in Texas can have an opportunity to have their dog add many, many more healthy, active years with a wonderful quality of life. So, and then of course we got into doing it for cats, since we've rescued 500 cats in 28 years. I mean, that certainly doesn't compete with the 15,500 dogs, but 500 cats is still 500 cats. And our cats, the oldest ones, we've had one that we lost 2 years ago. One was 31, one was 32. It's pretty spectacular to live that long. So we're really pleased with what we're doing. And again, this is our charity. It's become our life's work. And now my wife and I are even with the fact that we are now in so many stores and things like that, where it's already there and the stores are helping us, where I'm not having to sell somebody a bag of dog food, that my wife and I now are looking at creating our own programming, our own television shows, our own movies, things like that, using state-of-the-art technology and doing it for the betterment of mankind. Every day, my wife and I get up with the idea that we would like to leave this planet better off than we found it. We would like to do something to whatever we can to contribute. You know, we've now got a new company called Superheroes to the Rescue. Well, that's pretty, that's so we can all be superheroes when we do what we can to help each other and to help animals. So that's basically what we've done. And I'm sure you've got questions about my Batman TV series, which I'm happy to answer any of those. But that's what we're doing right now. We're having a great time. In fact, Warner Brothers told me they liked the comment that I said I was the Cape Crusader and now I'm the Canine Crusader.
Absolutely. And you should both be commended for that. That's great work. That's really great work. Absolutely. That's great stuff. So they can, so where can so one more time, please, where can the customers go to get more information, and then where can they purchase these amazing products?
Okay, well, they can certainly come to our website if they have a dog, GentleGiantsDogFood.com, or if they have a cat, GentleGiantsCatFood.com, or if they want to go to our store. Both of those websites have access to our store, but they can go directly to our store, GentleGiantsPetProducts.com. But if they want to buy our food for their dog or cat, first of all, if you're in Texas, go right to HEB. I mean, you couldn't find a greater, more wonderful grocery chain that's covers quite a bit of Texas, which is a pretty big state, I have to admit. And so HEB is terrific, and they have our food, and we have different recipes. We have a farm raised chicken, we have real beef with real bacon, we have wild caught salmon, and then we have, for our cats, we have a whole line of cat food. Plus we have canned food that we're very proud of, because in our particular case, our canned food is made with all fresh ingredients, not frozen, not powdered, fresh ingredients cooked in the can. So I mean, this is superb quality, and dogs and cats love this. But so they can go to HEB and get it. We're also in Target stores, and we're online with Target.com, Petco.com, PetSmart.com, TractorSupply.com, Chewy.com, and HEB.com.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that's fantastic, and I'm going to drop. I'll drop the links for those places into for all those websites into my show notes for the podcast, so the viewers and listeners can find more information and go there and shop and purchase these amazing products.
Great. Thank you very much. We love animals. And, I tell people, the greatest thing that I could do for someone is to help something or someone they love live longer and be with them longer. I mean, it's funny. The only complaint I ever got from someone said to me, you and your wife, it's all you seem to care about are the dogs and cats. Why don't you do something for humans? And I said, well, no, wait a minute here. If I help you keep your dog or cat an extra 5 or 10 years longer, don't you think I've done something for you as well? They go, oh, well, I guess if you put it that way. Yeah, right. Well, I think so.
That's exactly the case, and I think that betters that helps everyone be better, because it's been proven that people who do in fact own pets live longer, happier lives. So that's fantastic.
Animals are very comforting. Why do you think that they use they'll take dogs and sometimes cats, but mainly dogs, into hospitals where there's children or even adults or seniors? It's a very calming effect because the animals have an innocence about them. They're not trying to do anything other than just give love and receive love.
Absolutely. We just a gift from above, and they're just amazing, really amazing creatures. And let me move to something else here, and it's still in relation to the pets, but you and Tracy have also worked with the Artist Guild in Charlotte, North Carolina, to create some school programs for children to properly care for their pets. And I think that's very important for kids to learn at an early age, not to pull the ears or tails, and how to feed them, and everything else. So is there somewhere where listeners can go to find out more about that?
Well, we had a program before we had our dog rescue. We had a program called the Early Bird program. It was designed for kids in preschools to teach values like honesty and integrity. There no political things or anything like just basic, good citizenship, kindness. With the idea that if you teach really good values to children when they're young, that you've got a better chance that as they grow older, that they will espouse those values and make a better world for all of us, because we're all on this same planet right now, and nobody's colonized anywhere else that I'm aware of. So we got to try to find a way to live together and with kindness and to try to help everyone. I mean, I tell people we're all on this planet such a short period of time. You need to make every day an effort to be your best day, to accomplish something. And that's the way we look at it, that we're very lucky to be here, and it almost gives us an obligation to try to help others have a good life too.
Mission accomplished. Well, let me rewind all the way back to the very beginning and start with your early days, if I might. And so you were born and raised in Los Angeles, and your father, Burt Sr., was the owner of a traveling ice show called Rhapsody on Ice. And at age 2, you were listed in the magazine Strange as It Seems as the world's youngest professional ice skater.
Yes.
Do you have any memories of those early days?
I have a 1 or 2 memories of that, and let me share them with you. My father owned this traveling ice show called Rhapsody on Ice. It was the predecessor of Ice Capades. Okay, and it was very successful. He traveled all around the country, and with it, and that in the show they had these incredible skaters. But at one part of the show, I was 2 years old. My skates are like, I would say, about 6 inches long.
Okay.
And that's the blade. The shoe is probably 4 inches long.
Right.
And they would bring me out, and they would announce, here's a 2-year-old that is skating, and they would have a professional skater holding each of my hands, and they, just skate around the ring and the rink, and people would clap. Well, that's very nice. And then they would let go of me, and I would skate by myself around there, and a 2-year-old doing it, and people are going nuts. They're like, how can this be? And all I can tell you is, because the ice, is so white, and the bright lights from the arenas were so bright, I could never see anybody up there, I mean, and yet usually these were all like theater in the round where people are around you, but I could hear them. And I remember the just like the clamoring, that, you know what I mean? It was just so loud, and yet I couldn't see anybody. And all these years, that never left me. That's the one thing I remember, being on the ice and being so impressed with it's like a gigantic, audience. And so it was a great honor. Then from there, my father came back to Los Angeles, and ultimately decided that he wanted to get into real estate, became a very prominent real estate broker in Beverly Hills, California, where I went to school. And I always thought of myself, I like to read comic books when I was a kid.
Right.
But where I lived, they only had the Superman comic books. I had never heard of Batman, never saw a Batman comic book until after I got the TV series. But I do remember reading, Superman, and I remember reading about Superboy.
Right.
And let me tell you something. Even at 3 years of age, I had a tricycle, and my mom put a bath towel around my neck, held together with a boy. And let me tell you, as I grew up, I was kind of a quiet child growing up. And when in school, I'd come home every day. I didn't really have too many friends, just kind of a quiet person. But I would take this ball, and I would kick it against the wall for hours and hours and hours. Kick the ball, and you run it, kick it, and daydreaming about being a superhero. And I honestly believe that thoughts can be things. Right. And so here later in life, I had an opportunity to try out for the show. I mean, let me tell you something. I didn't know this at first, but there were 1,100 young actors that were interviewed for this role of Robin. 1,100 national, all across the country. And I was very fortunate that I had a chance to try out for it. And then when I got it, I remember the executive producer came to me and said, "Burt, would you like to know why out of 1,100 young actors that we picked you to play this role?" I said, "Yes, sir. I'd be very, very interested to know." And he said, "Well, in our minds, forgetting television, if there really was a Batman and Robin, I mean, for the real thing, we think in terms of Robin, you personally, Burt, would be it. So we don't want you to put on any big acting thing. We really want you to just do two things. One, be yourself, and two, be enthusiastic." Well, like, that's nothing, right? I mean, sure. I am myself, and my whole life have been very enthusiastic. My nickname as a child growing up was Sparky, because I was like a firecracker type of thing. So for me, this was very easy to do, and that's exactly what I did for 120 episodes. And I am, as I found out later, I was very impressed to find out that during the filming of 120 episodes with probably 30 to 40 different directors, not once did any director ever tell me how to say a line. And the same with Adam. They never told us. Adam West, who we just instantly became best friends. I mean, I don't know how it was. Some people can just get along and click in 5 minutes. And I met him at my screen test. And I was introduced to him, and we sat down to read these character lines. And in 5 minutes, the two of us were laughing. We just got along so well. And you know something? I really believe that chemistry that he and I had, yes, personally, carried over on the screen because, as big and grand and slow talking Adam could be, I would be quick and fast, and I would, and in my opinion, all the great comic duos of the past, your Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello, Ed McMahon and Johnny Carson, all of the great comic duos, there was great contrast. So the more that Adam was stoic, the less stoic I would be. And it worked out great. It just, and people just, they just caught on. And we also did something that I'm really proud of, that that no one at that point that I was aware of had ever done. I remember in those days, if you were watching television, people that watched television were like almost a third party, distant, having nothing to do with the show they were watching. They basically were looking at either good guys or bad guys, and the good guys are after the bad guys, and the bad guys are trying to avoid the good guys. And that's what a television show was. You're not part of it. But Adam and I, we tried to do something different. We tried to reach through our television sets and grab those kids on the couch and grab the adults and just bring them right into the whole Batman campy style. And, honestly, I think it worked terrific. And one of the things that Adam and I did that I'm actually quite proud of, that most people are not aware of, that is used in just about every movie you see, something that he and I created. And that is that on Batman, we created a situation that during the most dangerous, potentially life-threatening thing, there would be some comic line between the two of us. As an example, we were in a warehouse looking for the Joker. And as we're going through and it's tense and the music is tense, all of a sudden these, 7 giant guys drop into the thing and they're all ready for a fight, and all these ominous guys. And I have a line to Batman that said, "Gosh, Batman, there's 7 of them against the 2 of us. Odds in our favor." Because there was only 7 of them. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. And in today's world, you look at these movies. Oh my gosh, you look at the Marvel movies, lots of comics statements right in the middle of the drama and the action, Sure. And it's and not just superhero movies. And I've seen in the bad boy movies where they're, where they're fighting these bad guys, and they'll have one line to another saying, "If we get out of this alive, I'm not coming over to your house again." The point of it is there's a comic relief that plays very well in action scenes, and that was something that was created on Batman. And the other thing I say to people is, you really think that you'd have all these superhero movies if Batman hadn't been such a big success that paved the way for all these movies to come out? So we really, I think, made a great contribution, and I'm very proud of my small part in making that contribution.
Absolutely, absolutely. And let me stay on the theme of the fighting here for a second. So once you, or actually before you had even gotten the role for Batman, one of your neighbors, and I don't think a lot of people might know this, one of your neighbors and friends was actually Bruce Lee.
That's right.
Can you talk about your relationship with him and how and some of the techniques and things that maybe you learned from him that have all stuck with you?
Well, we lived in the same condominium complex, and we got to be friends. And a piece of, and we used to spar together. That's where you fight, right, but you don't have full contact. Still can be very painful when you get hurt, but we and we got along great. In fact, I remember one time I joined him and his wife Linda, and at that time Brandon, his son, was only 6 months of age, and we went down to Chinatown to have dinner together. Bruce had lived in Hong Kong for 10 years, so he knew all the most authentic foods that weren't even on the menu to order, and we had a great time. And he also had an opportunity to join a television series produced by the same executive producer as I had, which was William Dozier. Mr. Dozier, besides producing Batman and lots of movies of the week for CBS, he also made a series called The Green Hornet.
Right.
and Bruce was cast as the character Cato. Van Williams was cast as the Green Hornet. And what happened is that because our show was the number one in the entire world. I mean, you couldn't believe it. Number one in the world. No, actually, number one and number two, because we were on twice a week. But what 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 happened is because Mr. Dozier was going to launch the Green Hornet after our series in the fall, after we had premiered, and then the next fall it was going to Green Hornet. He thought, what a great way to promote the Green Hornet to people than to bring it on to the most popular television show in history at the time. And which brings me to a point of a interesting piece of trivia. As you know, Bruce Lee, I believe, is the greatest cinematic martial artist there will ever be. I can't imagine anybody ever being a greater cinematic martial artist than Bruce Lee. But a piece of trivia is that Bruce's first filmed fight scene of his career was fighting me on Batman.
Yes.
That was the first time he'd ever fought in front of a camera. And of course we were given very specific instructions. Don't come at it that hard. This is still a family show. On Batman, you could have chairs, knocked on somebody's head and they fall down, and 2 seconds later they're up. There was never any blood. There was never any real injury. Right. It was kind of bigger than life superhero kind of combat. And so they wanted it to be even. They wanted it to be, not too realistic. Okay. Although we did it pretty realistic and they made us trim it down a little bit, but it was fun. And he was a really nice guy. He had an amazing sense of humor. I mean, you might think, oh, he's just this tough guy. No, actually, Bruce was a very, very kind of gentle person.
Right. And then so can you tell us about, there was a I guess kind of a lighthearted moment when you were filming the fight scene with Bruce in that Green Hornet episode, where he apparently gives you a dirty look and then he comes charging right at you. But he'd been put up to this.
Yeah, no, there's some comment that I was supposedly afraid of Bruce Lee. I'd already been fighting with him for months before we got on the set. Right. I mean, no, not at all. Not at all. That just somebody made that up. I don't know where they had it. Maybe they had indigestion after their dinner, but that was nothing but a completely fabricated thing. Okay. But we did train together, and I'll tell you something. Bruce trained 8 hours a day, every single day, even on Christmas Day. Man trained. And one of the things that he and I discussed quite a bit together is efficiency of effort. In other words, Bruce believed that when you learn something, okay, you go through an effort to learn something, okay, right. And any of us, whether you're martial arts or playing the piano, whatever, you go through a learning period that's an awkward period, right? Because none of us starts as an expert with anything. But what Bruce's whole theory is that as you learn and as you educate and as you absorb more information, that you refine that information, that you simplify the information. So his whole thing was, how can you get the greatest result with the least amount of effort? Nothing to do with being lazy, just efficiency.
Right.
And that he was totally into that. And so we had a good time. We were friends, and I later on, after the series, at some of these martial arts events, he would put on demonstrations, and I would go to sometimes watch some of the competitions and stuff like that, and we'd have a chance to talk. And he was just he was a nice man, but he was a very smart. Let me tell you something, he would say, with all his martial arts experience and training and stuff like that, he said, the best tool you have is your brain. Point to his head like that.
He's absolutely right. And you yourself have a black belt in Taekwondo as well. And so how did that, the mental and physical training with that and what you did with Bruce and the gentleman that you trained with, how did all of that kind of combine with your high school athleticism all the sports you played. How did that come in handy with you with not only your audition, but with all the scenes that were filmed throughout Batman?
Well, I was a brown belt when I came and
Right,
screen tested for Batman. So, and I, as part of my screen test, now this is 1965.
right.
The martial arts of karate had only come to the United States in 1959. You're talking about 6 years before was the first time, and is introduced here in Los Angeles by a gentleman named Ed Parker, who
Okay.
became very, very famous. Ed Parker. And I even trained with Ed Parker. I trained with him. I trained with his right hand man. I trained with many people, not just a trainer, but a bunch, and different techniques, Aikido. I mean, there's other there's many kinds of karate, Kempo karate. There's different styles,
Sure.
of that. But the point of it is that I thought it was great, great athletic, good for your body, just to keep in shape and stuff like that, and also to be able to protect yourself. I mean, my gosh, in today's world, who would have known how much more dangerous today's world is? But back then, it wasn't a terribly dangerous world. I mean, you could have some danger, but it was
Sure.
very far and few between. People had expressed integrity about it was good. It was you were proud to be honorable,
Right.
something that you could be proud of. Where there's a lot of youngsters that have now grown up on the wrong side of things that have no qualm about harming or hurting somebody. We would never think of that. Martial arts was never designed to be an aggressive thing, but a defensive thing. To
Right.
be able to, and it goes back to China and all the different Okinawa, Japan, and all. You go back into the history. It was always the poor person, the peasant, who was trying to defend themselves against some oppressive behavior by their local government or something.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. So you were inducted into the International Kickboxing and Karate Hall of Fame in October of 2015. What does that honor mean to you?
Well, it means a lot. One of my dearest friends, his name was Bob Cheney. In 1973, he won the World Karate Championship. He was considered pound for pound, one of the finest fighters ever in history. Yeah, he was like a Bruce Lee, but his specialty, and just incredible guy. And he and I became like best friends. And through the years, yeah, he would come out, and he was single, and he'd come out and stay with my wife and I. And when I was writing my book, Boy Wonder, My Life in Tights, he was right there. We'd have dinners together, and he was 8th degree black belt. I mean, he just an amazing, and he became a very famous teacher of martial arts. He was like very close with Chuck Norris,
Mhm.
and there was like a group of them. They were all that had all been with each other from so many years of training and fighting and stuff like that. But so he was just a great friend, and we found a lot to talk about. I was very fortunate to have him. Unfortunately, Bob passed, but and a lot of my dear friends, unfortunately, have passed. I,
Yes.
I, I'm kind of sad to say that, other than Julie Newmar and Leanne Merriweather, who played Catwoman in the Batman movie that
Yes.
we did, other than them, I can't recall. I don't know that there's any of the stars of our show or guest stars that are still around, which
Sure.
is and it's kind of sad, because I liked all of them. And when I was shooting Batman, I mean, you come on the set, and every week I am working with somebody that I either watched on television as I was growing up,
Sure.
or watched in the movie theaters as I was growing up.
Right.
I mean, for example, Cesar Romero. I mean, the
Mhm.
great actor. I mean, his presence on the set, you could just feel this just guy is just incredibly, and he always knew his lines. He never made a mistake. I mean, it was the old time movie actors that you imagine from the days of Clark Gable and the great stars of the past. And I mean, for me, I was like a kid in a candy store. And then Vincent Price came on and played Egghead. And let me tell you, I had seen his movie, The Raven, when I was a child, and it really had scared me, really scared me.
Yep.
So when he first came on the set and I saw him, there's like this flutter in my stomach that, you know what I mean? Because I was for a moment frightened, but he was incredibly nice, a great actor. And I mean, like I said, I was a kid in the candy store.
Right.
Every week I am working with somebody that was famous, that already had been a star. They wouldn't have been a guest villain on our show. They already were very established. And, Cliff Robertson and Frank Gorshin and Burgess Meredith, Maurice Evans. I mean, great Shakespearean actors. And I mean, George Saunders, Joan Collins. It could just go on and on, just unbelievable. And I honestly, I loved it. I was very appreciative to have that. And sometimes we'd have a chance to talk to them because, it's not all the glamour of shooting a show. Basically, you get on this cold soundstage, you get makeup put all over your face, sometimes on part of your body. Then you get into the most uncomfortable costume that was not designed for man.
No.
Oh my gosh. I could go on and on about that Robin costume. But and there you are sitting on the set. And in those days, they didn't have the cool lights like they have now. They have lights that can be very bright, but they're cool. They had these giant arc lamps that, I mean, you could fry toast or something. They're so hot. And and you get under those lights for hours and hours, and you're just like delirious by the end of the day. And then the other problem is they light a scene, Greg, for 45 minutes, for 45 to 50 minutes. And then you work for 30 seconds. And then you go sit down for another 45 minutes. And people say, well, Burt, that's no big deal. Just bring a book and you'll be fine. Well, let me tell you, I brought a bunch of books, never got to read them. You know why? Not because I was due on set, but because one of the assistant directors, oh, Burt, we need to check your makeup. Go over there to the makeup trailer, 300 feet away, right? And then you come back. Oh, wardrobe wants you down there to go check on your mask to see if it's proper. And oh my, you never have a moment's peace. And then of course, when your dressing room, I can't tell you how many times when I'm taking off my clothes, I'm in my underwear and I'm starting to pull up my tights, and there's a knock on the door, and instead of giving me a chance to say, hey, wait a minute, I'm still getting dressed. It'd be a knock on the door, and they open the door. Hi, Burt. Oh, did I disturb you? Oh, you're just getting dressed now. Oh, I have the reporter here from the Hollywood Daily Variety and Hollywood Reporter. Oh, guys, no, don't look. Oh, you're taking pictures over. No, you shouldn't do that. Burt, I shouldn't have opened the door. Oh my gosh. I can't tell you, there's no privacy, no peace. And by the end of the day, I'd get my makeup off. And by the way, in front of every shot, they put more makeup on and more hairspray on. People used to say to me, Burt, I thought your hair was jet black. And I said, no, it's because of all that hairspray. And I mean, I'm telling you, I could put a heavy roast on my hair and it wouldn't even press my hair down. By the end of the day, there was so much hairspray and so much makeup, and taking off all that makeup. And then you drive home and you're so tired. You get in, I got into my apartment. It's like I'd sit down and like start to fall asleep, and and then I know I got to be up early the next morning and be in there, and you got to be right on time. And it was a challenge. I mean, I loved it. I mean, the costume was a challenge, and just the pace. There's always a lot of pressure. I mean, because time is money. I mean, there's a reason they call it show business, because it is a business. And, delays are incredibly costly. And our show, with all the special effects and the explosions and the giant birthday cakes that are quicksand, and oh my gosh, everything you can imagine. They had extra crew members. Instead of a crew of about 30, we had a crew of about 80 people. Wow. And therefore the budget went nuts, and the studio was losing hundreds of thousands of dollars every single week on every single show. And eventually, when they had made enough 120 episodes to sell into reruns, that's when they decided, from a financial standpoint, we need to recoup our money on Batman.
And that was a big question that I had for you. Is I didn't understand how with how someone didn't maybe see that, like, hey, we're losing $200,000 to $300,000 a month, and this is
A
in
week, a week.
I'm sorry, a week. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. $200,000 to $300,000 a week, which
Right.
if we extrapolate that,
In
obviously
today's
to
money,
monthly,
that's like $3 million a week in today's money.
right? And so what I don't however many millions that is monthly. So I guess my question was is how did someone not see that these expenses were so astronomical, and yet the revenue somehow, the ad revenue from TVs or affiliates just didn't match. And so
Because they couldn't do it. They couldn't sell it at that time. Sponsors were only paying so much money. They couldn't recoup. And finally, when they got enough shows in the can, is what they call it, that they could rerun it forever. But with reruns, they get paid a lot less money, but there's no expenses against it. You know what I mean? They can distribute it electronically, to stations all around the country, collect a fee without spending a dime. And that's how finally the studio recouped all of its money and became very profitable, the show. But it had to be after it was ended.
Okay. I guess that makes sense. And I didn't quite understand it. And from doing my research, I knew there had to be another element to that. So let me ask you, like, when you're with your interactions with other young people in your apartment complex in the condominium, so everyone's trying to make their dream happen, get started, all that good stuff. So did you hear about some other people there talking about the Batman audition and that prompted you to go and try out, or was that your first interest in acting?
No. I was going to UCLA. I was studying acting with a top professional Hollywood coach and studying at UCLA an acting class there. So I was getting 2 complete courses there every semester. I was helping my father because on weekends, since my father was one of the prominent real estate brokers in Beverly Hills, he would ask me to stay at a house like on the weekend for a certain number of hours. And, people come in, hand them brochures or answer questions. And one of the people that came in, one of the houses that they call it sitting on the house where you're sitting there, was a famous Hollywood producer who I don't know, I just kind of got the nerve. I said, hey, would you be willing to watch me do a scene? And he said, okay, I guess so. And I did a scene. He said, yeah, that's pretty good. Let me send you to an agent. He sent me to an agent. The agent said, I can't get work for the actors I've got. I would never take anybody new. The only reason I'm going to take you is because this prominent producer asked me to, and I have to do it. Okay. So he said, don't expect to work for a year. And if you get something, maybe you'll get one line or one sentence to say on camera.
Wow.
Well, I left there kind of with my tail between my legs, so to speak, and went back to my small apartment. And it was probably a couple of weeks later that I got a call from someone in that office, that agent's office, that said, there's something going over at 20th Century Fox tomorrow. We have you an appointment. Show up at 4:30. It's in your name, and they'll have a parking place for you. You'll be able to park on the lot, and they'll tell you directly where to go to meet for an interview for this role. And I said, well, what's the role? And I said, I have no idea. All they're knowing is they're seeing lots of young guys over there. So that's the next day I went there and went over, and I was parked, and I was sent over to a bungalow. That's instead of an office building, they had a bunch of bungalows. And I met the casting director, and he just asked me 1 or 2 questions and said, would you like to meet the executive producer? I said, sure. I mean, I figured everybody got to meet the executive producer. Well, that's not true, right. But I didn't know that. So I said, sure. So he sent me to another bungalow, and I went in, and the secretary said, hold on a minute. Okay, Mr. Dozier will see you now. And I walked in, and maybe because I had never been on an interview, Greg, that I wasn't intimidated. I hadn't been rejected, so I wouldn't going in there like damaged goods. I just walked in and said, hello, sir. And he's like, oh my gosh, this actor is very, kind of forward here, I mean, I wouldn't say aggressive, but very forward.
Sure.
And he was definitely caught off guard, and he looked at me. He says, "Well, you're kind of big for this part." I said, "Oh, but sir, I promise you, I won't grow anymore." Right. Well, and he laughed. How can you promise somebody you're not going to grow anymore? Right. He said, "Would you like to do a screen test?" I said, "Sure." Right. I mean, doesn't everybody get to do a screen test? No, no, they don't. But Burt Ward didn't know that. And so I said, "Sure." And that's when then I ultimately showed up for this screen test. And that in the beginning, which you can actually see my screen test online.
Yes.
And on that screen test, you see me do some martial arts stuff. It was some judo stuff with a friend of mine. I broke a board with my hand, and then they said, "Okay, well now we want you to do a scene with this other actor, and here's a sheet of paper. And on this sheet of paper, it didn't say about any show name, just a sheet of paper. And on the sheet of paper, it had paragraphs, and then it was like a heading, like Bruce, Dick, Bruce, Dick, and each one had some dialogue." Not Bruce Wayne, not Dick Grayson. I mean, I wouldn't have known it at the time anyway, because I had never read a Batman comic book, never even knew it. They existed, but it was just Bruce and Dick. And they said, "Let us introduce you to the actor you're going to read with." And that's when they introduced me to Adam. I said, and I sat down next to him. I said, "You want to run lines?" He said, "Sure." Within 5 minutes, the two of us were laughing. He and I got along so well. So we got up, we did our dialogue. Okay, this is as Bruce and Dick, right? And I thought that was all there was. I didn't know that there was anything else. I didn't know about any superheroes. All I knew was I was just reading for this part. And then I said, "Well, thank you all very much." And I started like, "Wait a minute, where are you going?" "Well, aren't I done?" "Oh, no, 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 no. We've got one more thing for you." "Oh, okay. Well, what do you want me to do?" "Well, over on the other side of that sound stage here, way over there, we want you to go over there, and there's a trailer, a wardrobe trailer, and there's two wardrobe gentlemen there that are going to help you get dressed." And I stopped for a second. I said, "Well, no disrespect, but I'm perfectly capable of dressing
Yes.
myself." They said, "Oh, no, 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 no. You don't understand. You go over there, you'll see." I said, "All right." So I went it's like walking 3 blocks. Go over there, and sure enough, there's this dressing trailer. I go in it, and it's quite long, actually, and it must have had a 10 or 12-foot cushion, mattress, bed, couch, whatever it was. And on it was all this stuff. And I saw these two guys. I said, "Am I going to put some of this on?" They said, "No, you're going to put all of it on." I'm like, "What?" They helped me get dressed. Never in my life, Greg, has anything pinched, pulled, itched, every possible uncomfortable thing you could imagine occurred. Plus, because of the way the mask was, I couldn't see. And when I finally got dressed, I started to come out. I almost broke my neck because I couldn't see the step coming out of the room. You have to look straight down. It's just tunnel vision. And as I was leaving, and I'm telling you, I'm like this. I'm so uncomfortable. I like walking in a big U frame. It was just horrible. I hadn't gotten used to it. And I, being a positive person, I turned to these wardrobe guys and I said, "Well, the good news here is after another 15 or 20 minutes, I'll never have to wear this costume again." Right? Famous last words. Oh boy, did I ever wear it again and again and again.
I know I speak for the audience when I say that we all greatly appreciate the sacrifices you made to do that and to get into the role.
Yeah, but getting into the role was great, but getting into the costume was another matter.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, so what were that time like with in regards to the set and the filming, and we talked about the cost a little bit, about having to be sure that you got a shot. So I maybe this was one of the first scenes or first shoots there, but so you're coming out of the Batcave and you round that curve and you go flying out of that door and you almost take out that Gotham City sign.
Well, let me explain.
Sure.
That was my first day of filming, right? The
Okay.
first day of filming. And it's the first shot of the first day of filming. And I'm on set in the Hollywood Hills it's called Bronson Canyon, where they have an actual cave there. It's not a real big cave, but it's big enough that Batmobile can fit in. And here I'm there like 6 a.m. and in makeup by 6:30 and in wardrobe by 7. And they said, "Burt, our first shot, We're going to have you go in the cave. You're going to get in the Batmobile, and you're going to drive out, and you're going to come at the camera, and then they're going to make a sharp left turn and drive off down towards Gotham City. I said, okay. So I go up there, and when you first go in the dark, it takes a few moments for your eyes to adjust. I couldn't see very well. I couldn't even find the Batmobile, but finally I felt it. And I got in and I sat down, and I kind of looked over, and I thought I saw Adam. And I said, Adam? They said, no, it's Hubie. I said, oh, Hubie, who are you? He says, I'm a stuntman. I said, oh, well, why are you here? Well, because this is a very dangerous stunt, and the studio doesn't want to take a chance of Adam West getting hurt. I said, well, that's a good thing, I guess. But so if this is really dangerous, it's, oh, absolutely. We got to come out at 55 miles an hour on the dirt. We got to go straight for the camera. At the last minute, I have to slam on the brakes and spin back into the car around to the right, and then let go of the brakes and rev up and go down towards Gotham City over the sign. I said, oh, wow. I said, that does sound challenging. He says, yes, absolutely. He says, and I said, do you like being a stuntman? He says, oh, it's great. He says, the more broken bones I get, the more money I get paid. I said, oh, well, I guess that's one way to look at it, and then I'm sitting there and I'm saying to myself, well, now, wait a minute. If this is so dangerous that they don't want to take a chance of Adam West getting hurt, what about me? And I said, well, I didn't kind of my first day of shooting, I didn't want to be too, asking too much, but I said,
sure.
Do you know if I have a stuntman? He said, oh yeah, you got a stuntman. I said, great. Well, where is he? Oh, he's having coffee with Adam West. I said, well, maybe. And then all of a sudden I hear, close it up, get ready to film. And I said, whoa, wait, there's a terrible mistake. Quick, come over here quick. And the second unit director says, Burt, what's the matter? Said, this man's a stuntman. He said, yeah, we know that, Burt. I said, yeah, but he's telling me this is a dangerous shot. Yes, we know that. And he's telling me I have a stuntman that's having coffee with Adam West. Burt, we all know that. Well, wait a minute. Why isn't he here and me having coffee with Adam West? If it's so dangerous that you don't want Adam West to get hurt, don't you want me to be safe too? Oh, well, we can't use him. Oh, you can't use my stuntman? No, can't use him. I say, okay. Well, why is that? Well, he doesn't look like you. Well, then why did you hire him? Why would you hire somebody that you can't use? Couldn't find anybody else. Oh my gosh. So you got to do it, Burt. Plus, when you come right up to the camera and he makes that sharp turn, your face is going to be full screen right at that camera. And we know it's going to be you because your stuntman has a giant nose the size of Cyrano de Bergerac, famous books. I said, oh my gosh. Oh, all right. So, all right, get ready to shoot. So the stuntman says, okay, Burt, hold on. I said, okay. Well, first I go to buckle my safety, my seatbelt, but there's no seatbelt, Greg. No seatbelt. So, no seatbelt. What am I going to do? So then I'm going to hold on to the handle, but wait, there's no handle on the inside of the door because all the camera equipment and the lighting to get the light in my face and all of that. And I have to stay in a certain position because otherwise I'm going to move the light and it's going to cause the camera to see a motion in the light that shouldn't be there. And oh my gosh, well, what am I going to hold on to? Oh, I see this 1/4 of an inch flexible plastic fake windshield. That's what I'm going to hold on to coming out at 55 miles an hour. Let me tell you, I could just bend that like this. Oh my gosh. So here I'm trying to, I don't even know what I'm doing. And guy says, hold on. I go, oh, what am I holding? I have nothing to hold on to that's secure. And boom, out we go and go right at the camera. And he makes that perfect. He did it perfectly. But unfortunately, unexpectedly, my door flew open. And when my door flew open, the cameraman sitting on what they call a camera truck. It's not really a truck. So it's a little stand with wheels on it. But he's sitting up on that. That door hit him and knocked him off the camera truck, knocked the camera over, knocked an arc lamp over, giant. That's what they used to light up these things when they were selling cars and, opening nights and the big things. You see all the lights in the sky. I mean, that's what it's huge, bright light. If that had landed on somebody, Greg, they'd be killed. No question. They'd be dead.
Sure.
And I was thrown towards the door, but I don't know how. I just threw my hand behind me, my arm behind me, and somehow this little finger locked around the gear shift knob, and it kept me from falling out. I'm sure if I'd tried it 100 times after that,
right,
it would not have. I would have fallen out, but I didn't. This one time it caught. But what it did is it pulled my finger out of joint, which is incredibly painful. So when the door hit the cameraman and it knocked things over and everything came down, the car came to a screeching stop. Dust is billowing up. You could hardly see. And they run over and they say, "Burt, are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm okay, but my hand is killing me." And they looked down at my glove, because I'm wearing my green glove, and my finger inside the glove had already doubled in size. And they said, "Burt, we got to get you to a doctor. That's obviously that finger's been pulled out of joint," which is incredibly painful. Okay. And I said, okay. They helped me get up, and I got out of the car. I said, "Well, where's the car to take me to the doctor?" "Oh, we can't go now, Burt." "What do you mean?" "Oh, we can't go. We didn't get the shot. It costs us like $30,000 every 10 minutes. We got to get the shot." "Oh, so I don't go to the doctor?" "No, you got to stay right here. In fact, you got to do it again. Once we get it all lit, clean up the Batmobile, all of this stuff." I ended up shooting it like 3 more times. And it finally at noon, I left for the doctor. And the doctor, looked, reset it. It was horrible. I don't even think about it. And that was the first day of 4 days in a row that I ended up going to the emergency hospital.
Right.
Things like broken nose from a 2x4 landing on me while my arms are tied to my side. Explosion of a car that blew up next to me that burned, second-degree burns in the back of my neck and the back of my arm. I mean, oh man, this was a dangerous show.
Indeed it was, but it so there were all kinds of incidents like that, and that was the same with Frank Gorshin, where he's above you, and he's
that's when I'm in the burning car.
Yes.
Just imagine, can you imagine getting into a car that's on its side? You're in a real car that's on its side, and they've got it burning on the outside. A real fire. This is not fake. This is not digital fire. This is real fire. Okay. And I'm down in the hold in the very bottom, and above me, and the only way to get out is Frank Gorshin. Okay.
Right.
I mean, you talk about the ultimate claustrophobia. You're in there and there's a fire going on, or all around you. Everything is on fire. He's above you. And of course they're saying, "Okay, let's get ready to do this." Well, he's there. It takes time. It's not just get in and get right out. You're stuck in there for probably 10 minutes, 12 minutes. And finally they said action, and he goes up and he jumps off. And my thing was the same thing. I'm supposed to climb up through the open window, stand up, and then jump off. But what happened was, unexpectedly again, that car that was on fire blew up. It was not supposed to blow up.
Right.
And as I'm there getting ready to launch, all of a sudden the explosion, and all I can tell you, Greg, was I saw the ground coming at my face like incredibly fast. Well, it was actually me being thrown to the ground, but my eyes saw the ground coming right at my eyes. And second-degree burns the back of my neck, my arms, because like I wore a t-shirt, and gloves, but so that this part of my arm and both sides got burned. And there I am back at the same doctor. He said, "Maybe you should think of another kind of business. You seem to be accident prone." I said, "I've never been in an emergency hospital in my life till yesterday when I came in with the finger that was out of joint. Now I got burns in the back of my neck. 2 more days of this stuff." I went into him. And let me tell you something, the studio, though, they were very smart. When they realized how dangerous the show was, they took out a huge multi-million-dollar life insurance policy on me. And I could swear by the end of the 3rd season, I thought they were trying to collect on it.
I can imagine so, but that said, let me kind of segue into something else here. So with the this is the PG 13 section of our show, folks. So did the perks of being the star of a hit show help offset the dangers of filming, meaning a rather how shall we say, a gratuitous set of excursions with a wealth of other female fans and other women maybe who worked with you on the show?
Well, I tell you, I got lots of free medical care. That was nice. I got lots of ointment, bandages, things like that. Broken nose set. I mean, they were very gracious about that. In terms of when you're working on a show, believe it or not, you are you never have a moment's peace.
Right.
And yes, I worked with a lot of great people, a lot of beautiful ladies, but it was, you just, I don't know, by the end of the day, and then you got to be up early the next morning, you got to memorize your lines. You got all this dialogue to do. I mean, they were doing 6 pages a day. And you say, well, 6 pages, that doesn't sound like much. Well, it could be a lot of dialogue. And, yes, did I meet people? Yes. They will occasionally go out. Yes. Okay. But this was not the glamorous Hollywood that you think of.
Right.
This was not there's no party. I guarantee you, I did not party one day after work for that entire series. There was none of that. It was just, this was really, and just one more thing. Even though I wore the costume for the filming, I didn't get a chance to take the whole costume off between the shots. I always had the tights on. I always had the tight boots on. I always had, the vest on. I mean, it's like, and it just wears you down by the end of the day when everything either itches or pulls or pinches. I mean, it's not what you think it is. And then you get distracted with this or that, or you get a great scene that you just says, oh, we got to shoot it again. Why? Oh, well, we had a flickering light. I mean, because the guys that filmed this, these were the pros of the pros. I mean, they were every one of them fantastic crew members. And and by the way, I was the youngest person on the set. Right. I was 21 years old, 21, 22, 23 when filming. And the next person in age to me was Adam, who was 37 when I was 20. He's 17 years older than me.
Right.
So who did I talk to when I wasn't working? Well, first of all, you couldn't be talking to all the crew guys because they had their jobs to do, and they're all in their 50s and 60s. And I'm a 20-year-old. And, some of them looked at me like, how did this guy get so lucky at 20? And I've been sweating my whole life just to, pull cables for a camera. I mean, it wasn't what you thought it was. So I was really, I had grown up pretty much a loner, and I was still a loner,
Sure.
I mean, Adam had his press agents and these people fawning around him and this and that. And I was just sort of by myself, and that was fine. I did well with it, but it was certainly different. And, it took up some of my childhood, my older, I would call it my senior childhood,
Sure.
when you're around, your late teens and early 20s.
Well, sure, but you would have normally been in college at UCLA at that time, continuing with studies, a normal college life otherwise.
Right.
Sure.
This was not obviously a typical college life,
No.
but it also had all kinds of pressures, and it was all very serious. And not a lot of, as much as our show was funny,
right,
and some of the lines we did were funny, it wasn't funny to the people making the show. They're very serious about stuff. And what took you so long to get your shoes on, or oh my gosh, it was just like, it was constant. Even if you weren't specifically pressured to do something, you felt that tension that, we got to get this done. We got to get this shot. We got all these crew. Got to do this. Got to do this. Got to do this. You know what I mean? And the most famous line, one of the most famous lines in show business is, "Hurry up and wait."
Yes. Yes.
Burt, we got to get you into makeup, Burt. Oh, and then I go to make. Oh, Burt, we got to get you over to the wardrobe. They got to fit this. Okay. All right. I'm ready to go. Oh, we're not ready yet, Burt. Oh, all right. Well, go ahead. Go have a seat, Burt. We'll call you. And then 20 minutes later, are you ready now? Nope. We're still got some lighting issues. All right. I said, well, then I think I'm going to lay back in my dressing room, and I get a pillow and I kind of just start. My head hits that pillow. Burt, we need you right now. It's like, oh my gosh, not a minute's peace. But it was still a fun show to do, and Adam and I had a great time. He was such an entertaining friend, and we laughed, and that sure made some of those days that were so uncomfortable. And some of the things that we were in were hurtful, and some of these explosions were one of them where thank God, I just felt like I had to close my eyes. They told me, the special effects, that explosion's going to go down and up, not going to come out. You don't have to worry. Something told me that to be careful. And then when I knew it was going to explode, because I knew the exact line, just then I closed my eyes, because now remember, I got a mask on, so it's unlikely, and it's a wide scene. You're very unlikely you're going to see my eyes closed. You understand?
Sure.
But it's a good thing I did, because untruthful, although they may not have meant it, that explosion came right out, and my eyelids had second-degree burns on them. If I had not closed my eyes, I would be blind today.
Wow.
Can you imagine that? I'd be blind.
No, I can't. And that was there was an awful lot of danger on that show. And a lot, there are always so many things behind the scenes with the way the sets are doing. It's like, trust me, when I understand, it's a different discussion, but in past job experiences, I trust me when I say that I understand that you feel like you have to hurry up, and there's that pressure. I do truly understand that, and it's not nearly the glamorous thing that people think it is.
Now, let's take one more example: the bat poles, right? People ask, well, I see you press lift Shakespeare head, you press the button or turn the knob, and the door opens, you slide down. How deep was it? Actually, it was about 8 feet deep that you could, went down. But that wasn't the real bat pole. We had a real bat pole that we filmed one time, Greg. And if I thought about it again, I never would have filmed it. It was so dangerous. We had to go up inside the soundstage, up these rickety, wood steps that you can see through as you're going up, and you're going to higher and higher. Oh, this one's got a little curve, a little give in it as you step on it. You get higher and higher. And then you get out on a catwalk that is probably only about 2 feet wide. Okay. And one little wire across the top. There's no safety. And then, and we walk out in the middle. They have 2 bat poles all the way to the ground, 65 feet down. There's no net. Nothing. There's nothing. They said, we want you to jump on this pole, but you got to really be careful. You got to make sure you don't miss. You're gonna, and the stunt guys were telling me, the way you got to do this, because it'll burn right through your gloves, the weight going down that height,
right?
Okay, and that fast. So what you do is you're gripping and letting go, and gripping and letting go, and gripping and letting go. You see me, to break your speed, and then you're doing the same thing with the inside of your rubber soles of your boots. You're clamping down and letting go, because if you just held on, it would just burn right through them. Okay, and what if we missed the poles? We'd be dead.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no net. And I mean, I think about it now, and we only did it once, but it was real. And I'm saying, how could they ever get away with that? I mean, and then there was another scene where they say, Burt, now this is going to be a little scary for you, but don't worry, we got it covered. Oh, yeah? You got it covered, right? Well, what is it I got to do? Well, there's a scene when the bad guys are hanging you off the side of a building. We're going to film this. It's real. We're going to get you on top of the soundstage, which is about 85 feet tall. And we've got 2 of our strongest stuntmen that are going to hold you by the leg, and we're going to hang you over the side of the building for this shot. I said, hey, wait a minute here. And when I saw it, okay, I first of all, I insisted and I did my own. I got I insisted on a big thick rope, like a boat moors to the ship moors when they come in, big thick rope, and I tied it to my leg. I wouldn't let them tie it. I tied it to my leg, and then I tied it around a pole so that when they're hanging me, they're holding me, right?
Right.
But you wouldn't see that I had a rope tied, and I wasn't trust. And they said, "Why are you doing this, Burt? The guys are not going to let go." I said, "As I recall, we just finished lunch, and they serve fried chicken. What if these guys didn't dry their hands and they got greasy hands trying to hold on to me? I'm 85 feet up there. I don't recall you having a net down there. Do you have a net?" No, we didn't have time. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to have this tied on my leg if you want me to do this shot. Oh, you're difficult to work. No, I want to stay alive. So that's the kind of stuff and it was like every day. And then when I'd hear that there's going to be explosions because I'd had so many burns on the face from explosions, they say, "Oh, he's a little touchy with explosions." Oh, well, why do you think he might be? Well, he was in the hospital probably half a dozen times at least from burns from explosions.
Gosh, it doesn't necessarily seem like the studio was all that concerned about your safety as much as they were with getting the shots in, and then of course
I think so. I think so. I mean, nobody wanted me to get hurt. I'm sure that, but
right.
they just weren't as careful. And well, I have one last example for you. Okay, so here it is, the fourth day of filming. The Riddler, Frank Gorshin, has me on a table. I'm tied down with my arms at my side. All I could do is kind of like move my head a little bit. Can't do anything else. Move my head. And they're supposed to have Batman figures out where I am, and he breaks through a subway wall with an explosion. Okay. Here's another explosion. So what they have is they said, "We got it all set up. We have a breakaway wall. Breakaway. It's like made out of balsa wood. It's very flimsy, and they use a magnesium charge, which is its sound is so loud you just hold your ears for an hour. And it's explosion, but it's not an explosion that blows way out. It's it's just a bang, just super loud and super hot in a short area, maybe 5 feet away." Well, I knew when it was going to happen. And when it happened, I'm on the table, I'm kind of bracing myself, and all you had was a boom. The wall didn't break. Now, why didn't the wall break? Oh, because there was some confusion in the making of the set, and the builders forgot to make a breakaway wall. So now there's no time to spend 3 weeks making another breakaway wall. What do you do when Batman has to blow a real hole through that wall? Well, the special effects guys, here they come with 2 half sticks of dynamite, and they nearly blew the entire soundstage down. And when they did, they blew some of the 2x4s that were in the wall, flipped up. I'm tied down. Here comes a 2x4 down and breaks my nose on the bridge of my nose. That was painful.
It's bad. That sounds very painful, and that's just a crazy, unfortunate thing, and an unfortunate deal for filming.
Yeah, so it's anyway, it was, look, those were the bad things, but there were great things too. There were fun scenes. There were and my gosh, when you saw people how they reacted to our show. Oh, I mean, and Adam and I would go out and sign autographs, and people would stand in line for 5 hours to get an autograph. And sometimes the parents would be coming up and they're holding their little child who's now fallen asleep because he waited so long to meet Batman and Robin. I mean, it's some very touching things. And we had a great time. I mean, there's times that Adam and we laughed on the set. One time, the two of us, it was so hot under those hot lights. and we had these cats, and we were supposed to put them in a position to make a map. And one was upside down and the other, and we put them together, and he and I started laughing and laughing. And then they cut. "We got to do this again, Burt." "Adam, stop laughing. No more laughing. Here you are." You say, "Okay, I'm going to try not to laugh." And the sweat is coming down the inside of your legs of the tights, and the sweat in your back of your neck. And, you're so hot in those lights. And Adam looked cross-eyed in his mask, which made me laugh. "I look like a raccoon in my mask," he said. And we would laugh. And I remember this one director came up, he said, "This is the 10th take. You two guys are going to laugh me out of the business." meaning he's going to lose his career as a director.
Right.
Oh, well, so we did the best we could, and we crazy things happen. Life is imperfect, but
No,
we made the shows. They turned out great. People love them, and overall, we had a great time.
absolutely. And you guys, you and Adam were good friends off the set as well. And so it wasn't uncommon necessarily for just regular people to or fans to come up on you up to a public tennis court, and you guys are
Well,
having
yeah,
a
we play tennis sometimes on the weekends,
uh-huh.
and it's really funny because most of the time we were not recognized. However, when you put us together, that's what somehow, without saying a word, people were. And I remember we were playing tennis one time in a public court, and you have to understand, nobody knows that we're going to be playing there, right? I didn't
Right.
even know the day before. So we go out in the public court, and we're playing tennis, and some people come to the next thing, and I notice these two ladies are looking like this, and like this. They go, "Oh my God, Batman and Robin playing tennis." And like everybody stops. And now, it's like, oh gosh. All right. Well, that was fun playing tennis. Let's quit now because nobody's going to play tennis. They're all going to just stare and look, ask for autograph.
Right.
you know, no. So Adam, I say, hi, all. Nice to meet you. Have a good day. We're out of there.
Well, and I'm sure that popularity maybe created some problems as well. Maybe you couldn't go out to dinner and eat as you used
Oh,
to.
no, no.
I
That,
mean,
that isn't that interesting. That
yes.
was because we were together. When
Okay.
I was alone, nobody ever recognized me. Ever, 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 ever.
Uh,
Only time is if they said, "Oh, Burt Ward is here in the restaurant." Well, then people would look, and yeah, they'd figure it out. But people are, at least in that period of time, were
uh-huh.
so involved with their lives and their own problems and concerns and hopes and wishes. They're not looking for it. And if they're not looking for it, they do not notice it. I tell you, they do not notice it. So I had the best of both worlds, where I could have all the notoriety I wanted if I put on that costume, and I could have all the peace and quiet I wanted without that costume.
Very good. Very good. Well, let me ask you some things about the show as well, about as far as the um as the special effects and the Bat Cave and the Batmobile and the Bat computer and the map on that clear grid and
Uh-huh.
everything. Was there a particular element of the show that fascinated you or that you enjoyed working with more than maybe one of the others?
Well, what I think the thing that I liked the most was working with Adam, because he and I got along so well, but also
Sure.
working with the guest villains. I
Yes.
mean, every one of these was a major star. I mean, it's like, and then so many actors wanted to be on our show. It's like when something is a hit, everybody wants to be part of it because they want to somehow enjoy and get a bit of that success. So there was never going to be enough roles for all the actors and actresses that wanted
Sure.
to be a Batman. So that's when they created the scene of going up the wall, while Batman and Robin walking up the wall, and then some
Okay.
famous person would open the window. We had
Yes.
Sammy Davis Jr.,
Right.
Don Ho, we had Lurch, we had Betty White, we had I mean, just so many different people that would open up that window and have dialogue with us. That was how they would get, because the kids of some of the biggest Hollywood stars were pressuring their parents. Oh, you got to be on Batman. That's the coolest show of all.
That's great. That's great. So let me go back to the costume here for just a minute. And can you this is just kind of I guess a strange thing for the times, but there was an organization that that didn't care for the way your costumes were um, portrayed or seen on TV coming through their TV sets, and they took exception, and they had the network make some changes. What was that whole thing like? And then it was a weird deal, and so they wanted you to take these pills that would change things if everyone will, and and then there were some you started to feel strange about taking them, and then you go in, and then you go into the studio and you say, "Hey, look, I'm not doing this anymore." Is
Right.
that how that went pretty much?
Yeah, it is basically man was not built for tights, Greg. Okay,
No.
so and so the Catholic Legion of Decency. I mean, Batman was so popular, everybody wanted to get involved. We had psychiatrists saying, "Oh, that is the wish dream of two homosexuals." Everybody had some theory or this or that, and Adam and I were just having a good time, just two normal guys having a good time, filming a show, getting along great.
Right.
And but everybody wanted their 2 cents in it, and there were people. This Legion of Decency was very upset the way I bulged in my tights.
Right.
Well, what do you expect?
Right.
Not a female, a male. So they complained to the network, and the network got in touch with 20th Century Fox. 20th Century got in touch with the production company. Okay, and the production company came to me and is telling me about it, and I'm saying, what? What? What's going? Oh, no, no, they're very serious. I said, oh, come on. Oh, no, no, Burt, no, 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 they're very serious about it. And then you have these wardrobe guys that are trying to get me to wear all these contraptions under my tights, and oh, I mean, none of that worked. And and then it became more knowledgeable, because people would talk, and you know they'd talk about this or that, and Adam would tease me a little bit about it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I would tease him back. I said, well, I said, listen, Adam, I may get complaints like that, but you're the only one I know that has to stuff Turkish towels in their undershorts so that you look normal. Well, the Turkish towel, I mean, it's like a blanket. So I mean, we had
Right.
some funny dialogue, but he and I, we got along. We got along. We were like incredibly good friends. I loved Adam, and I think he loved me too. We just really were good friends.
Well,
But in any event, so yeah, they finally found some doctor that would give me these pills that would technically shrink you up,
right.
uh, for a few hours or whatever that. But after 3 days of taking them, I kind of got worried that maybe I'd never be able to have children or something,
Right.
So I didn't want to take them anymore. So I ended up using my cape to cover when
Yes.
there were certain things or certain angles. But
Right.
then there were those, we were shooting this Londinium larcenies, if you want a little bit of a spicy into this thing. We were shooting this show, a three-parter called Londinium larcenies, and the Lord P anyway, the long and short of it is they instead of having hinch men, they had hinch young ladies.
Yes.
Okay, and they were all in their, I mean, they looked like they were all teenagers or college kids, young,
Hmm.
and they all knew about that. So they would purposely, when they're grabbing onto me, they're like they're holding me back or this, they're purposely bumping into me
Ah,
or grabbing a little too close
right.
or whatever, and they're all giggling and like, let's see if we can get a rise out of Burt, and stuff like that. And I mean, I laughed too, but I mean, what could you do? You did the best
Sure.
you could do,
Sure.
and it was fun, and it was a little challenging, and of course the crew on the set always do it, and they're all laughing at me, and what I had, there was no win. There was no win except whenever I could get my hands on that cape and cover, and of course with them holding my arms out, how am I going to do that? And it,
Well,
it it was that was a few days of challenge, but
sure.
then it was over, and then they're on to another crew and another cast and all that kind of stuff, and somehow we always got past it and moved on to the next episode.
Well, and then Adam had some fun with that too, and he apparently stuffed something down the front of his costume, and then made it in almost to the final edits. Is that right?
Well, no, he had to put something in because he was too flat.
Okay,
It didn't look right.
that's funny.
So I would, the minute he's laughing about my problem, I'm telling him he's got a worse problem, right? And
Oh
but
gosh.
that all kind of boiled over after a week or two, and then there's something else. Who knows? But we we had a great time. We made a great show. Kids loved it. Adults loved it for the nostalgia of the comic book. The college kids and the teenagers who you couldn't get to watch television in those days. They wanted to cruise around the drive-ins on a Friday night kind of thing, that's what they wanted to do. And so how do you get them to watch television? Well, that's where our campy style with the suggestive statements that Adam and I made, and the double meanings and the insinuations all came about. It caused them to watch the show for that second level of comedy.
Excellent. So in the show, you used phrases beginning with the word holy 352 times through the entire 120 episodes of the series.
No, more than that. When you count the Batman movies, there's over 400. And I didn't write them. I mean, there were some that I did get to change. It didn't make sense. Not every writer that wrote for Batman had a feel for what we were doing, especially with the double meanings and the suggestive implications and the innuendo. They didn't all get it. So we were allowed to make changes that we thought were appropriate to maintain the same style, which we did.
Sure, and that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, this has been an amazing and incredible conversation. Let me ask you just a couple more things here, and we'll land the proverbial plane, so to speak. So this was, according to Adam West, I believe, if I have this right, the Batman TV series was mentioned with two other iconic symbols of the '60s, being Bond, James Bond, and the Beatles. So we have Bond and the Beatles and Batman.
Yeah, that's when Adam came on the set one day and said to me, Burt, I had this realization. There's the 3 B's in today's world. I said, what's the 3 B's? Batman, Bond, and the Beatles. And I said, oh, okay, Adam, and then he had another one that I want to tell you about, Greg. He had a funny situation where he said to me, Burt, I really think I understand now what it's like to play Batman. So what do you mean, Adam? You understand what it's like. You do it every day. No. I really now really understand in a deeper way. So yeah, I'm like, okay, I knew he's going to come out with something. He says, last night, he said, I watched the 10 Commandments. Okay. And I saw Moses coming down with the Sermon of the Mount from the Mount. Okay. Charlton Heston, is Moses. And once I saw Moses bringing down the tablets with the Sermon on the Mount direct from the Word of God, I really understood what it was like to play Batman. I said, oh my God, Adam, he was so into his bigger than life celebrity. He thought of himself like Winston Churchill or somebody like that, and yet the sweetest guy in the world and such a funny guy, but at the same time, was he occupied with himself. And I would tease him unmercifully. I would do things, we would go out on events, and I would throw, at the time he was in his 40s, and I would throw a 50th birthday party for him, or announce it on the airplane, have the pilot announce, we have Batman Adam West on the plane, and today's his 50th birthday. Let's all wish him a happy 50th. Adam, I'm not 50 years old, you know better than, and I mean, we would, he'd put one time my boots, because we would get changed and go to lunch and come back at these appearances, and he put my boots in the freezer. Okay. And you can imagine you've got nothing but the leotard on, you're putting your foot in a truly ice cold boot, talk about getting cold feet, right?
Yes.
But I got back, I put itching powder in his tights, and he's pulling this tights over and he's going like this, and everything is itching him, right? I said, Adam, no, you can't do that. He said, I'm itching all over. I said, he said, what did you do? I guess I dropped some itching powder in your tights. Well, I have no time. We got to go out on stage in 5 minutes. What am I going to do? I'm itching to death. I mean, these kinds of things, and yet we loved each other. He and I, we had such a good time together. I miss him terribly.
I know you do. I can imagine. Is that do you feel, is that the legacy that you feel that the show has for that time period, with being associated with Bond and the Beatles?
I don't think so. I mean, it was true. I mean,
Mhm.
yes, Bond, it was Bond. It was very tremendously successful. Beatles, tremendously successful. But we held arena records in some of those big arenas more than the Beatles. In Cobo Hall in Detroit, there was 189,000 paid attendance to see us in one weekend. 189,000 paid
Wow.
attendance. And
Wow.
McCulloch Place in Chicago, it was like I think 160 some odd thousand paid attendance to see us in just over one weekend, which exceeded the rock groups.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Those are fantastic numbers. And I know those people enjoyed seeing you guys. So I believe so there we go. In 2019, you and your wife Tracy helped create and collaborated on the history making Batman 66 exhibit at the Hollywood Museum to honor not
Yes.
only Adam West but all of the heroes and villains of Batman
Oh
66.
yeah, with all the scripts there, with the original, it was really cool. They had original costumes there, which of course have aged, but then
Mhm.
they had replicas of what they looked like at the time we used them. You see what
Right.
I'm saying? So
Yes.
you can see the real costume there, and yes, it's definitely aged of fabrics and they're losing their color and some of their color and stuff like that. But then you can see exactly what it looked like at the time of filming, and people love to see that comparison. They really liked it. Not just my costume, Adam's costume, villains costumes, with both the original and then the duplicate to show what it looked like. The various all the scripts were there. Some of the funny signs were there. You know what I mean? Like for example, villains hideout. Why would you have a sign? Villains hideout, right? I mean, and then there's one thing that a lot of people couldn't figure out is that every time they filmed the villains, they were always at an angle. Even I didn't understand. I said, what's with you guys? You can't get your camera straight? No, we do that on purpose. I say to the camera, what do you mean you do that on purpose? Well, we do it on purpose. Well, why would you film them at an angle? He says, because they're villains. I said, what's that got to do with it? Because they're crooked. And that was
Ah,
part of that
but
Batman campy style. Even the cameraman had their 2 cents in there by filming at an angle.
well played. Very well done. That's an interesting element that I'm not sure a whole lot of people knew as well. So also in January of 2020, you received your very own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. What does that honor mean to you?
Oh, it means a lot. I had been hoping to be on there for over than 50 years. And I tell people, I'm a very patient person. But 50 years, Greg, is a long time.
Yes.
50 years. Okay. So, but I was thrilled. And actually, what makes it so great, it's on Hollywood Boulevard, right in front of the Ripley's museum.
Mhm.
Uh, and it just and they had it where my star is facing Adam's star. The way they do it on Hollywood Boulevard is that every other star is facing one direction. And then conversely, if you were walking the other way, every other star is facing the other direction. So no matter which way you walk on Hollywood Boulevard, every other star you're seeing facing you perfectly, and then the next star is facing the other direction, but then the next one is facing you. And they had it where Adam and I were facing each other at just about the exact distance that we did our lines apart. So it was like making in perpetuity. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. Well, that's perfect, and that's just a tremendous honor and long overdue and very much deserved.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And so, what do you feel like your legacy is, not only for the TV show, but the Batman franchise itself?
Well, I've been very honored. I've done a lot of stuff for Warner Brothers besides the series. When they came out with their channel, the special pay channel, I did all the introductions of the shows. Spent an entire day there reading pages after pages on camera of introducing these various shows that was the basis for their comic books and the basis for the TV shows and things like that. And also, I've had a warm relationship with them. They came out with a wonderful, beautiful coffee table book called the Robin, the 80 years that it's been around, the comic book, the Robin comic book. I wrote the introduction for that, which was quite an honor. And there was 8 Batmen, in terms of the movies made, but it was only really my Robin, and then there was a very brief Robin that was used in one of the other films. But mine, by far, I've played Robin more than anyone in the whole world, so many more times than anybody else.
And you were actually nominated for a Guinness Book of World Records for that.
Yes,
that,
yeah,
for
yeah,
that
yeah,
as well.
yeah. And the Guinness Book of World, and in fact, it was I could have gotten it. I could have got it. But in today's world, actually, if you want to be in the world records, they charge you. And I actually qualified for 9 different things, and they're $9,000 each if you want to be on.
Wow.
So not that I didn't want to pay for it; it just didn't seem like, it was great to be honored. I know what I've been able to do, and I'm satisfied with that.
Absolutely. And you and Adam were nominated for the Guinness Book also, with
Yes,
by being the two who most played
the
the dynamic
characters.
duo.
That's right. Oh,
Yes.
that's right. Well, also I could have been as the world's youngest professional ice skater, the
Yes.
world's fastest reader. The average reader reads 240 words a minute with 40% comprehension.
Yes.
When I was at Beverly High and UCLA, I studied for years. I became the world's fastest reader. I read 30,000 words a minute with 90% comprehension.
Mm-hmm.
When I was at UCLA, I had I read War and Peace, 1,442 pages in 45 minutes, got an A essay final on it. And so I've had a lot of accomplishments that I'm really thrilled about. But, overall, I've just tried to do the best I could in my life. And my wife and I are very health conscious. We don't smoke. We don't drink. We've never taken drugs, never will. We want to be aware of what's going on around us, and we want to each day go out and try to make it the best day we can.
Mission accomplished. Well, my good man, thank you, Burt, very much for speaking with me today, and I appreciate you very much and your contribution. I personally just have always been a Batman fan, and one of the first TV episodes that I can ever remember watching was Batman in syndication, and this was in the early to mid '70s, and
right,
and so much to the point that my friend growing up and I, that we both dressed as Batman for Halloween one year, so just really great. But again, this was just an absolute blast, and the pleasure was really all mine. I can't thank you enough for being my guest today.
Well, thank you, Greg. I've enjoyed being on your show, and as we said on Batman, to the Batmobile, citizen.